Alright guys, today we're talking about hump molds or slump molds depending on which side of the bowl you use. So the first thing you're going to need is a bowl, obviously. We can see we have three different sizes up here. You don't have to bring a bowl from home. If you want to, if you have a nice platter or a bowl that you want to bring from home, one rule is make sure it doesn't have a foot if you're going to use the outside of it. If you're going to use the inside, fine. But on the outside, stuff that doesn't have a foot ring is better. Okay? We have a wide selection of plaster molds that you can use. They're all stacked up here. Really giant one on top. And if you look down at the end of the sinks down here in the secret hobbit cabinet, you can see we have bunches of lender bowls. You can dig through there and find your favorite one. The idea here is that we're going to make a mold out of the bowl. Alright? So you can see on our Hump Molds poster here, you could start with a slab. I would say if you're in a rush or you're short on time, slab is fine. But it's got to be a pretty decent curve, all right, meaning less curve if you want the slab to conform to the shape. Because if this were a really like round bowl, that would not go on as smooth. Okay, and then they attach a foot ring to it, do some fancy stuff with the foot ring, and look at that, putting another ring around the top to close it in a little bit, and ain't that pretty. Feel free to come over and take a look at that poster. It's one way of doing it. There's the finished product there. That came out nice. It's like underglaze or Myolica. There's all our tools. So I'm going to show you another technique. And I should mention that just because there are no more tiny bowls left over does not mean you have to make your bowl this big. If you're going to use this as a hump mold, you could just have your bowl go down to here and then stop. And that would make it a tinier bowl, right? Right. Okay? Likewise for this, just because you picked a small bowl doesn't mean that you couldn't do two of them and make a set of salad bowls. All right? Because they're pretty fast. They go pretty quickly. The purpose of this assignment is to get you acquainted with slip and underglaze. I really want you to use that on the bowls. So give yourself some good stamped areas, give yourself some nice coil areas. The technique I'm going to show you right now, you could slab like you just saw on the poster, but I'm going to show you how to do this technique with a coil as well, so that you can have your choice. Do you want a coil? Do you want a slab? Like I said, slab is quick, it's going to go faster. Coil is a little more tedious. First thing is, remember to wrap the bowl. So many people screw this up. If you do not wrap your bowl, your clay will absolutely stick to the bowl. You won't be able to get it out. So you're going to take some plastic and lay it down in the bowl. Yes, you're going to get some wrinkles, but hey, at least it will come out. Okay? If it's on the outside of the bowl, you're going to cover the whole outside in plastic. That will act as a release agent. So what's the difference between hump and slump molds? Well, if I do my design on the inside, it slumps. Okay? And if I do my design on the outside, like a camel's back, it has a hump. Okay? So figure out which one you want to do, and then go for it. There's differences in the outcome, of course. I'm going to use this metal bowl because I really like the shape of it. In this case, the bowl is small enough that I can fit it inside of the bag. So I'm going to do that. And I'm going to tuck as much of the excess underneath as possible. Some people like to tape it. I don't think it needs to be taped. I think it's just nice tight wrap like that. Okay? And then from there, I'm going to start laying my design over it. Let's get these bowls out of the way. So I've got some pre-wedged clay here. And as an extension of coiling, what I'm going to do is create coils and then smooth them together to form the shape of the bowl. or to form the design on the bowl. So go ahead and get yourself a coil started. I know some of you are just coming off of a coil project, but you're just getting a little taste of what's possible. I see some people rolling really short like this. Start to go far enough with your rolls, okay? And if it gets too long, if you're bumping into your neighbor, just split it in half, lay this on a piece of plastic so it doesn't dry out, and then just continue rolling this out. What's a good, that didn't go well. What's a good width for these? Well, for a tiny bowl, you don't need giant coils. For something on a really big bowl, like this guy, I would say you want some bigger coils. For a tiny bowl, not so much. All right, I would not try to go any thicker than your, or any thinner than your little finger, just for stability. Okay, so I've got this coil, and for the base of my coil, I'm just going to curl this guy up. Some of you are familiar with this technique from previous videos. Okay. And then I'm going to blend all of this together. Some people on the bottom of their bowl here prefer to use a slab, because I've seen these little coils break apart. If you do a really good job blending the coil, I haven't had a problem, but there still is a risk that the coil will start to come apart after it's bisqued, and then you'll have a strainer instead of a bowl. But hey, maybe you can make some spaghetti noodles and throw it in there. Not a good idea. I think the thermal shock is a bit much on some of those. Okay, so you can see my design's preserved on one side, and it's smoothed and blended together on the other side. So I'm going to make that the bottom. Okay, and then I'm going to continue to design around the outside. So it does help, I think, to have a plan and have some sketches so that you know how big you're going to go with these. But I like to just, you know, for the demo, for demonstration purposes, just start to lay on designs. I'm going to put some neat videos up. You guys can watch those for some inspiration. And then start filling in and filling in. And get pretty fast at rolling coils. You can finish one of these in a day if you get good at rolling coils. And how does that sound? Some of you need that right now to finish these in a day. Okay, use longer rolls if you're not getting nice coils. And your coils need to absolutely be flexible. And you can see I'm not spending a whole lot of time trying to perfect these, getting them nice and tight. But you can do that little pebbly look where you take and fill in little pebbles. Do dot, dot, dot across there. Make sure you really press on those pebbles so that you get good contact. That brings me to another point. As you're doing this, you do not want to press really hard on the outside. Why not? Well, you're going to end up crushing your design, and you're not going to have much of a design left over. Okay? Now, I'm not going to go too far without blending, because these are starting to dry. The longer they're exposed to air, the drier it gets. Okay? And these little tiny balls of clay are really frustrating to get to blend, so I do not recommend waiting any longer than a couple of minutes before you blend them in. And I'm just pulling the clay across, making sure I'm not pressing too hard. Definitely do not want to press too hard on these. And then to finish them and to make a nice smooth outside, I'm just going to use my metal rib to scrape a little bit. Okay. That one just came off. There we go. Proves it. Proves it. Those little balls of clay are no good. All right. When this gets leather hard, you got to get it off the bowl. Why? Well, this whole thing is going to shrink. This whole clay bowl that's on the outside of the metal bowl. We know that, right? It shrinks as it dries. If this is shrinking, is the metal shrinking with it? No. So what's going to happen? Who's going to win, the metal bowl or the clay bowl? The metal bowl will win. Your piece will be all cracked and broken because it tried to shrink around the metal bowl. If you do it on the inside of one of the bowls, like a slump mold, it can shrink a little bit more and get a little bit firmer before you remove it because it's shrinking inward instead of trying to crush the bowl underneath it. So just real quick, let's take a look. There's my design, and you can see if I kept going, my design would still be clearly visible, and this would be a nice little bowl once I take it off. And you might have to come in here, you can see there's some cracks, little stuff that I have to fix up, but I could come in and fix all that up with a little brushwork or even a carving tool. One thing that I do recommend, if we can take a look at some of these bowls, I would recommend that you put a top ring to hold everything together. I have a great example up here. This one, you see they did a great job welding all these circles together. I'll put more examples up. But if they didn't have this top ring to keep it all together, this thing would have fallen apart easy. Okay? So keep that in mind. This top ring has to be pretty solid in order to keep everything together. But you can have open spaces in here. This will make a nice bread basket. I want you to use underglaze. I want you to try using some colored slip. I want you to make sure that it's wet enough when you apply the slip and underglaze that it is able to adhere. But happy coiling. Design up your bowls, and let's see what you come up with. Take a look at some of the examples in the slideshow, and you can go ahead and get started on your bowl project. Good luck.